The lonely human. 800 words approximate. The galaxy was vast, endless, and filled with countless civilizations. Yet one human walked alone across the forgotten ruins of a dead world. His name was Daniel, a traveler who had lost his ship and his crew in a storm of fire above the planet's surface. He had fallen from the stars with nothing but his courage and his will to survive. For many days, he wandered under strange skies, hungry and weak, yet still alive. The planet was not empty. Shadows moved in the ruins, and whispers echoed through the broken halls. Daniel knew he was being watched. The silence was heavy, and each step felt like a test. He carried no weapon, no shield, only hope. Then, the Watchers revealed themselves. They were not human. They were tall, fierce, and alien. Their skin glowed in the pale light, a deep shade of blue that shimmered like liquid metal. Their eyes were sharp, like blades, and their presence demanded fear. Among them were two who stood apart from the rest. They were warriors, powerful and beautiful, clad in armor forged from alien steel. One had long silver-white hair that fell like a river over her shoulders, her gaze cold and commanding. The other had black horns that curved elegantly back from her head, her face sharper, her movements quick as fire. Both carried massive axes, weapons that could shatter stone and bone alike. Daniel expected death. He stood before them like prey waiting for the strike. But something strange happened. Instead of striking, they hesitated. The silver-haired warrior stepped closer. She looked at him with eyes that had seen countless battles. Yet for the first time, she saw something new. His face was worn with struggle, but his spirit was unbroken. She whispered in her own tongue, words Daniel could not understand, but her tone was not filled with hatred. The horned warrior narrowed her eyes, circling him like a predator. Yet when Daniel stumbled, weak from hunger, her hand moved faster than her thoughts. She caught him before he fell, steadying him with strength that could crush his body. For a heartbeat, their eyes met. In that moment, the predator became something else. The other aliens, standing behind, murmured with unease. To them, a human was nothing. Weak, useless, a creature not worthy of notice. But these two warriors, leaders among their kind, saw something different. Daniel spoke, his voice quiet, shaking but honest. "I'm not your enemy. I'm only lost." The words were simple, but they carried truth. The silver-haired one tilted her head, as though testing the weight of his voice. The horned one studied him, searching for weakness, but instead finding a strange courage. They did not kill him. Instead, they brought him to their camp. The alien army was vast, gathered in the heart of the ruins. Fires burned high, warriors sharpened blades, and banners rose against the night sky. This was no place for a human. Everywhere he looked, eyes followed him with suspicion, with contempt. Some spat at his presence. Others demanded his death. But the two warriors protected him. At night, when the fires dimmed, Daniel sat apart, his thoughts heavy. He wondered why they spared him. Why two alien warriors of such power would choose to shield him from their own people. The silver-haired one approached first. She sat across from him, her axe resting by her side. She spoke slowly, carefully, as if testing words in his language. "Human, why still alive?" Daniel answered with a faint smile. "Because I refuse to give up." She studied him for a long time, and though she said nothing more, there was a spark in her eyes, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. Later, the horned warrior came. Unlike her companion, her voice was sharp, almost accusing. "You are weak. You cannot fight. Why protect you?" Daniel looked into her fierce eyes and spoke calmly. "Maybe I am weak, but even the weak can stand when it matters." Her lips curved, not in mockery, but in something close to a smile. The days passed. Daniel worked where he could, carrying water, repairing broken tools, tending small fires. The warriors of the camp mocked him. Yet slowly they noticed something they had not expected. The human did not complain. He did not run. He endured. The two alien warriors began to argue in whispers, though Daniel could not understand their words. One believed he carried a strength hidden beneath his fragile body. The other believed he carried a heart that could not be broken. Both found themselves drawn to him, though neither would admit it. The camp grew restless. Questions spread. Why protect a human? Why allow him to live? Suspicion turned to anger, and anger began to spread like fire. Daniel, unaware of the storm he had created, looked at the stars each night. He thought of home, of Earth, and of the strange path his fate had taken. He was only one man, yet he had become the center of something far greater. The galaxy was watching, and soon it would burn. The forbidden bond almost equals 4,000 characters. The camp of the alien warriors was alive with fire and steel. Each night, sparks from their forges lit the sky, and each morning the sound of blades echoed through the ruins. To them, war was not only survival, it was honor. And into this world of strength and blood, Daniel, a lone human, had been placed like a fragile seed among stone. But the seed did not break. The two alien warriors, who had claimed him from death, watched his every step. The silver-haired one, whose name was Serenya, carried herself like a queen of battle. Her eyes were cold, her words sharp, yet Daniel noticed something beneath her armor, a heart that struggled to hide its softness. The horned warrior, Kaela, was her opposite, quick-tempered, fierce, and proud. She looked at Daniel as if he were a puzzle she could not solve. She mocked him often, but when others tried to harm him, it was her blade that cut the air first. The other aliens despised this. A human among them was shameful enough, but to see two of their greatest champions show him protection was almost treason. Murmurs grew into open defiance. Many whispered, "Kill the human. Break the bond before it poisons us all." Daniel knew none of this. He only knew the way to their stairs. Each task he did, carrying wood, fetching water, even cleaning their weapons, was met with disdain. Yet he continued, silent and steady. One evening, when the fires burned low, Serenya brought food to Daniel. She placed it before him without a word. Daniel looked up, surprised. "Why are you helping me?" For a moment, her mask cracked. She looked at him, studying his tired face, the dirt on his hands, the quiet strength in his eyes. "Because you are different," she said slowly, as if the words cost her something. "You do not fear. You do not beg. Even when weak, you stand." Daniel smiled faintly. "Maybe standing is all I know how to do." Unseen, Kaela stood in the shadows, listening. Her chest tightened with something she refused to name. Later that night, when Serenya was gone, Kaela confronted him. "You make her weak," Kaela hissed. "You twist her mind. She was born for war, not for pity." Daniel looked at her calmly. "I do not ask for pity. I only live as I can." Kaela glared, but his words clung to her. She wanted to hate him, to dismiss him as worthless. Yet when he met her eyes, there was no fear, only honesty. It unsettled her more than any weapon could. Days passed, and the tension grew. The other warriors saw Serenya and Kaela drifting closer to the human, and jealousy boiled in their hearts. Fights broke out in the camp, harsh words thrown like blades. Some demanded that the council judge the two warriors for betrayal. The council agreed. Daniel was summoned before a gathering of alien leaders, a circle of armored figures whose voices rumbled like thunder. They spoke in their tongue, harsh and heavy, but Daniel could sense the anger behind their words. He was an intruder, a danger, a spark of rebellion in their ranks. Finally, one voice spoke in broken human speech. "Why should you live? Why humans stay? You bring weakness." Daniel stood tall, though his knees trembled. He had no weapon, no power, yet he had his voice. "I am not here to bring weakness," he said. "I'm only one man, but one man can stand. One man can protect. One man can matter. Kill me if you wish, but know this, I will not kneel." The chamber fell silent. The council stared at him as if the words were a challenge. Some growled in anger, others looked away uneasily. Then Serenya stepped forward. She placed her axe on the ground, the sound echoing like thunder. "This human has more strength than many of us. He is not weak." Kaela followed, her horned shadow falling over the chamber. She raised her weapon high. "If you wish him dead, You will go through me. The council erupted into chaos. Leaders shouted, warriors growled, the chamber split with fury. To defy the council was treason, but to side with a human was unthinkable. Yet here stood two of their greatest champions, bound not by duty, but by something more dangerous, choice. That night, the camp was alive with whispers. Some called Serenya and Kaela traitors. Others saw Daniel not as weak, but as a symbol, a man who stood unarmed before the council and did not bend. For Daniel, it was still a mystery. Why did these two women, powerful enough to crush armies, risk everything for him? He lay awake beneath the alien sky, staring at the stars. Perhaps it was fate. Perhaps it was madness. But in his heart, he knew one truth. The bond they had formed, fragile, forbidden, and dangerous, was no longer just survival. It was the beginning of something greater, something that could either save the galaxy or burn it to ash. The trial of loyalty almost equals 4,000 characters. The council's chambers still echoed with the clash of voices. What had happened was not easily forgotten. Serenya and Kaela had stood against their own leaders, declaring loyalty to a single human. To their people, it was madness. To Daniel, it was a mystery. From that day, Daniel's presence was no longer ignored. Every eye in the camp watched him, some with curiosity, others with open hatred. Whispers followed him like shadows. He has bewitched them. He is poison in their blood. Kill him before he destroys us. Yet Daniel did not run. He walked among them with quiet steps, carrying water, repairing small tools, helping where he could. The alien warriors mocked him, but some began to wonder. Could weakness hide strength? Could fragility conceal a different kind of power? The council, however, was not convinced. They demanded proof that Serenya and Kaela had not abandoned their people for a human. Proof that their loyalty remained with the army. And so, a trial was set. At dawn, horns echoed across the ruins. Warriors gathered in a great circle, their weapons gleaming under the rising sun. Serenya stood tall, her silver hair flowing like light. Kaela stood beside her, horns catching the glow of fire. Daniel was forced into the center, unarmed, his fate hanging in the air. The High Commander's voice shook the stones. Choose, he thundered. Your loyalty must be proven. Will you strike him down and prove your honor, or protect him and reveal your betrayal? The crowd roared approval. To them, this was justice. To Serenya and Kaela, it was a blade pressed against the heart. Daniel looked at them, his face calm, though his chest pounded. He understood what was being asked. His life was no longer just his own. It was the measure of their loyalty, the test of their bond. Serenya's hand trembled over her axe. Her people were watching. Her honor, her rank, her very life balanced on this moment. Yet when her eyes met Daniel's, she saw not fear, but quiet strength. He stood tall, as if telling her, do what you must. I will not beg. Kaela's grip tightened around her weapon. She wanted to scream, to tear down the council itself. But instead, she stepped closer to Daniel, her shadow covering him like a shield. You asked us to choose? She growled. Then hear me. My loyalty is to truth. And this human carries more truth than all of you. The crowd erupted in chaos. Some shouted in rage. Others stared in disbelief. Before the commander could answer, a horn sounded from the outer walls. An attack. The trial dissolved into shouts of alarm as soldiers rushed to their posts. From the ruins beyond, enemies surged like a black tide, raiders from a rival alien clan, armed and merciless. Arrows of fire streaked across the sky, and the camp was thrown into battle. Daniel was pushed aside, but even in the chaos, he did not run. He grabbed a fallen spear, though it was far too heavy for him, and staggered toward the front lines. Warriors screamed at him to stay back, but he pressed on. Serenya fought like a storm, her axe tearing through enemy ranks. Kaela's speed was fire itself, cutting down foes before they could strike. Yet both kept glancing toward the human who should not have survived the first wave. And then it happened. In the midst of the battle, a group of raiders broke through the line. Children, small alien children, were caught in their path, their cries piercing the noise. The warriors were too far, too busy fighting. The children would die. Daniel did not think. He threw himself forward, spear shaking in his hands. He stood between the children and the raiders, his body weak, his weapon clumsy. The enemy laughed at him, but he did not move. He held the spear like a wall. The raider struck, and Daniel blocked. The blow nearly broke his arms, but he did not fall. He screamed, pushing back with everything he had. The children escaped, running to safety, as Serenya and Kaela crashed into the raiders with fury unmatched. When the battle ended, the camp lay in ruins, but still standing. Fires burned, bodies covered the ground, but the children were alive. And at the center of it all stood Daniel, bleeding, shaking, but unbroken. The council watched in silence. The trial had been answered, not with words, but with action. A human had stood where many would have fallen. That night, whispers spread again, but they carried a different tone. He saved our children. He stood against death. Perhaps he is not weakness, but strength. Serenya sat beside him as his wounds were bound. She said nothing, but her hand lingered on his arm longer than it should have. Kaela stayed close, her fierce eyes softer than she would ever admit. Daniel, exhausted, whispered, "I told you, even the weak can stand." Both warriors looked at him, and in their hearts, a dangerous truth took root. This was no longer survival. This was destiny. Fire across the stars almost equals 4,000 characters. The battle in the ruins was only the beginning. When the fires died and the dead were buried, the story of the humans spread far beyond the camp. Whispers became messages, and messages became warnings carried across the galaxy. A human lives among the warriors. A human stood against death. A human is protected by Serenya and Kaela, the twin flames of the alien clans. To some, this story was a joke. To others, it was an insult. But to many, it was a threat. For centuries, humans have been considered fragile, forgettable, a race too weak to survive in the harshness of the stars. And now, one man had shattered that belief. Worse still, he had won the loyalty of two of the most feared warriors in the galaxy. The alien council gathered once more, this time not in a ruined chamber, but in a grand fortress orbiting a burning sun. Commanders, rulers, and elders filled the hall. They shouted in anger, demanding action. "This human has divided us," one elder roared. "He must be destroyed before his poison spreads," another spat. But others, younger and less hardened, spoke differently. "He saved our children. He stood unarmed before death. Perhaps he carries strength we cannot see." The council fractured. Lines were drawn, and from those cracks, war began to seep like fire through dry wood. Serenya and Kaela knew the danger. They had brought Daniel to a hidden stronghold far from the council's reach. But safety was an illusion. Scouts and spies watched them. Enemies whispered in the shadows. Armies began to march. Daniel himself felt the weight of it all. He had never asked for loyalty. He had never asked for love. Yet now he was the center of a storm that could engulf worlds. One night, as the three sat around a small fire in the hidden stronghold, Daniel finally spoke. "Because of me, your people are ready to tear themselves apart. Maybe I should leave." Kaela slammed her hand against the ground, her eyes blazing. "Leave? You think this war is your fault? No, this war is theirs. They fear what they do not understand." Serenya's gaze was softer, though her voice carried steel. "You are more than they see. You're not weakness. You are the truth they cannot face. That is why they fight." Daniel looked into their eyes and felt the bond between them tighten. It was no longer just protection, no longer just survival. It was devotion, dangerous, powerful, and unshakable. But devotion comes with a price. The first strike came from the stars. Enemy fleets descended upon their stronghold, ships blotting out the night sky. The fortress shook as fire rained from above. The warriors rushed to their stations, preparing for battle. Daniel stood at the heart of it, powerless to fight against such overwhelming might. But when the enemy broke through the walls, Serenya and Kaela fought like living storms. Serenya's axe cleaved through armored soldiers, her silver hair streaked with ash and blood. She moved with the weight of centuries, her every strike shaking the earth. Kaela was fire itself, leaping into the fray with speed no eye could follow. Her horns gleamed under the firelight as her blade cut down wave after wave. And always, they fought near Daniel, never letting him fall. Yet the enemy's numbers were endless. For every foe cut down, two more appeared. The fortress groaned under the assault. Daniel, desperate, grabbed a communicator from a fallen soldier. His voice rang out across the battle. To anyone who can hear this, we are under attack. Innocence will die. Children will die. If you believe in honor, if you believe in truth, stand with us. He did not expect an answer. But across the stars, the message spread. Some ignored it. Some laughed. But others listened. Other alien clans, who had once dismissed humans as fragile, remembered the story of the man who saved their children. And slowly, ships began to move. By the time the fortress walls began to fall, reinforcements arrived. Fighters streaked through the skies, answering Daniel's call. What began as one man's plea became a rallying cry. The galaxy trembled. On that day, a war ignited. Not for land, not for empire, not for wealth. It was a war born of love, of loyalty, of something no council could control. And at the center of it stood Daniel, a single human, shielded by two alien warriors who would burn the stars before they let him go. As fire consumed the skies, Serenya stood beside him, her armor broken but her eyes steady. This is only the beginning. Kaela, blood on her face, smiled fiercely. Let the galaxy come. We will fight them all. And Daniel, weary but unbroken, whispered the truth that bound them all. Then we will fight together. Betrayal in the shadows almost equals 4,000 characters. The fortress still burned from the last attack, its walls scarred with fire and blood. Though the enemy had been driven back, the victory felt fragile. The war was spreading, alliances shifting, and every star seemed ready to ignite. Daniel, Serenya, and Kaela stood at the center of it all. To many, they were a symbol of hope. To others, they were the root of corruption. And in times of war, hope and corruption often looked the same. Within the stronghold, whispers grew louder. Not all who fought beside them believed in Daniel. Some saw him as a curse, a fragile human who had bewitched two of their greatest champions. Others feared what his presence meant for the balance of power. And in the darkness, those fears became daggers. One warrior in particular, a commander named Varric, hid his anger behind polite words. He had once respected Serenya, even fought beside her in countless wars. But now he saw her loyalty turned to a human, and his heart twisted with bitterness. To him, Daniel was not a savior. He was a thief, stealing the devotion of two warriors who should have belonged to their people. Varric watched, and he waited. The chance came when Daniel wandered beyond the stronghold's walls, searching for supplies with a small escort. Varric joined them, his face calm, his voice kind. But in his heart, he carried betrayal. When night fell, the group camped in the ruins of an old temple. The stars shone through broken ceilings, and silence stretched across the stones. That was when Varric struck, a blade at Daniel's throat. The escort cut down before they could even scream. "You should never have come here," Varric hissed, his eyes burning with fury. "Because of you, our clans are breaking. Because of you, Serenya forgets her duty. Kaela loses her fire. You are not strength, you are disease." Daniel stared at him, unarmed, unable to fight. Yet his voice did not break. "If I am so weak, then why do you fear me?" The words cut deeper than any blade. Varric snarled, dragging Daniel into the shadows. His plan was simple. Hand the human over to the enemy, prove his loyalty to the council, and end the madness. But fate rarely allows simple plans. Serenya and Kaela felt the betrayal before they saw it. The moment Daniel did not return, they knew something was wrong. They moved like storms, their fury blazing across the night, until they found the trail of blood. The confrontation came in the ruins of the temple, under the broken stars. Varric held Daniel with his blade pressed tight. Around him, soldiers loyal to the council waited with weapons drawn. Serenya's voice rang out like steel. "Release him, Varric. Now." Varric laughed bitterly. "You shame yourself, Serenya. You were once the pride of our people. Now you kneel for a human. Tell me, what is he to you? A weapon? A weakness? Or something more?" Kaela stepped forward, her axe glowing with fury. "He is ours, and if you touch him again, I will carve your name from history." The air trembled with silence. Then steel clashed, and the night became war once more. Varric's soldiers rushed forward, blades flashing. Serenya met them head-on, her axe splitting the earth. Kaela's movements were fire, cutting through ranks with a rage born of love. Daniel struggled free from Varric's grip, but not before a blade cut deep across his side. Blood spilled, staining the stones. He fell, gasping, but he did not cry out. He pressed his hand to the wound and forced himself to stand. Even bleeding, even weak, he stood. That sight broke something inside Serenya and Kaela. Together, they tore through the enemy ranks, fighting not for honor or glory, but for him. Varric tried to flee, but Kaela's blade pinned him to the ground. Her voice was ice. "You betrayed us, and you betrayed him. There is no honor in your name." Before she could strike the final blow, Serenya stopped her. Her eyes burned, but her voice was steady. "Let him live. Let the galaxies see what betrayal looks like. His shame will be greater than his death." Varric was cast out, broken and defeated, left to wander with his dishonor. But the damage was done. Daniel collapsed, his blood still flowing. Serenya caught him, her hands trembling as she pressed against his wound. Kaela knelt beside them. Her face pale with fear, she refused to admit. "Stay with us," Serenya whispered, her cold voice cracking for the first time. "You do not get to leave," Kaela growled, her eyes fierce even as they filled with fire. Daniel forced a faint smile. "Even the weak can stand. Remember?" They carried him back to the stronghold, their armor stained with his blood. Around them, warriors watched in silence. Some saw weakness, others saw devotion, but all knew one truth. The bond between the human and the two warriors was no longer hidden in shadows. It had been written in blood, and for that bond, the galaxy would burn. The battle for one heart almost equals 4,000 characters. The stronghold had grown silent after Varric's betrayal. Shadows lingered in every corner, and suspicion poisoned the air. But in the center of that silence lay Daniel, pale and wounded, his breath shallow. His body was weak, but his will refused to break. Serenya sat by his side, her silver hair falling over her face as she pressed herbs against his wound. For the first time in her long life, her hands trembled. She had fought countless wars, faced death more times than she could count. But nothing had shaken her like the thought of losing him. Kaela refused to sit still. She paced the chamber like a caged beast, her horns gleaming in the torchlight, her eyes burning with fire. "He bleeds because of us," she growled, "because we could not protect him." Daniel stirred, his voice barely a whisper. "You did protect me. I am still here." Kaela stopped, her anger softening for just a breath. She knelt beside him, her hand brushing against his. "You fool, you nearly died." A faint smile crossed Daniel's lips. "Then I would have died standing." Serenya looked at him, her eyes shining with something she had never allowed herself to show. Fear, and something deeper than fear. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "He is more than human." News of the betrayal spread quickly. Word reached far-off worlds, twisting into legend. Some claimed the human had survived death itself. Others said Serenya and Kaela had chosen love over loyalty. The galaxy listened, and the galaxy judged. For every ally who pledged to fight for them, an enemy rose in defiance. Fleets assembled across the stars, banners raised high. One human had become a spark that set fire to empires. The council declared war. They would crush Serenya, Kaela, and the human who had divided their people. To them, Daniel was not a man. He was a symbol that had to be destroyed. The night before the great battle, Serenya and Kaela stood with Daniel on the balcony of the stronghold, looking out at the stars. Armies gathered beyond, ships forming constellations of war. Daniel leaned against the railing, his wounds still raw, but his spirit unyielding. All this for me. I'm just one man. Serenya turned to him, her voice steady. Not just one man. You are the truth they fear. Kaela's lips curved into a fierce smile. And the truth is worth burning the galaxy for. Daniel looked at them, at the two warriors who had risked everything for him. He felt the bond between them stronger than steel, stronger than fire. Then we fight together, he said. When dawn broke, the sky was alive with fire. Fleets clashed above the planet, their weapons tearing through the void. On the ground, armies surged, steel against steel, fury against fury. At the front of it all stood Serenya and Kaela, their blades drenched in firelight. Serenya fought like a storm, every strike of her axe sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Kaela was fire itself, moving with speed and rage, her laughter echoing through the chaos like a war drum. And beside them, Daniel stood, not with the strength of muscle or weapon, but with the strength of will. He carried no sword, only a banner, a symbol of defiance. When soldiers faltered, his voice rose above the storm. Stand and fight. If even I can stand, so can you. The warriors, alien and human alike, rallied to his cry. They saw not weakness, but courage. They fought with renewed fury for the human who refused to kneel. The battle raged for hours, the ground soaked with blood, the sky burning with ships falling like stars. Every moment pushed Serenya, Kaela, and Daniel closer to the edge of death. Yet still they stood. At last, the enemy's high commander appeared, towering in armor black as night. His voice thundered across the battlefield. Give us the human, and we will spare you. Kaela raised her axe high, her voice cutting through the chaos. He is ours, and if you want him, you will have to walk through fire. Serenya's silver hair gleamed as she lifted her weapon. And you will not survive it. Daniel, blood on his clothes, but fire in his eyes, raised the banner higher. Then let them come. The battlefield roared as the final clash began. It was no longer just a war of armies. It was a war for one heart. The galaxy burns, almost equals 4,000 characters. The battlefield was a storm of fire and steel. Ships fell from the skies like dying stars, crashing into the ground with thunder that shook the earth. Warriors clashed in endless waves, the sound of their weapons rising like a roar that drowned even the cries of the dying. At the center of the storm stood three figures, a human and two alien warriors, fighting not just for survival, but for each other. Serenya's silver hair was matted with blood and ash, yet her strikes carried the weight of a queen who refused to fall. Kaela's laughter rang wild as she cut through enemies with burning fury, her horns gleaming like fire under the broken sun. And Daniel, wounded, weary, his clothes torn and bloodied, stood with nothing but a banner raised high. Where others saw despair, he stood like a flame. Where soldiers faltered, he reminded them with his voice. If even I can stand, then so can you. The tide of battle shifted. Warriors who had doubted him now fought with fire in their hearts. Alien soldiers, once divided, now rallied together. For the human, for Serenya, for Kaela. But the enemy was relentless. Their high commander, a giant clad in black armor, moved through the chaos like a beast of war. His blade was as long as a man, his voice shaking the battlefield. Give us the human, he thundered, or the galaxy will burn. Serenya's eyes flashed. She stepped forward, her axe gleaming with fury. Then let the galaxy burn. Kaela joined her, standing at Daniel's side, her smile fierce. We will burn it together. The commander roared and charged. The ground cracked under his steps. He swung his massive blade with the strength of 10 men, striking against Serenya's axe. Sparks exploded like fire. The clash shook the earth. Kaela leapt at his side, her strikes fast and furious. Yet even together, the two warriors struggled. The commander's strength was endless, his armor unyielding. Daniel watched, powerless to match their might. His heart pounded as he saw them pushed back, their blades slowing under the storm. For a moment, fear gripped him, but then he remembered. Even a weak can stand. He picked up a fallen spear, heavy and broken. With trembling arms, he rushed forward, standing between the commander and the two warriors. The giant laughed, raising his blade to cut Daniel down. But in that instant, Serenya and Kaela moved as one. Their axes struck from both sides, their fury ignited by Daniel's courage. The commander's armor cracked, his blade faltered, and with a final cry, the twin warriors brought him to his knees. The battlefield froze. The sight of their leader falling broke the enemy's spirit. Armies that had once seemed endless scattered into the winds. Ships turned from the sky, retreating into the void. The war, for now, was won. But the cost was heavy. The ground was covered in ash and ruin. Countless lives had been lost. The galaxy itself had been scarred by fire. As silence spread, Daniel fell to his knees, the broken spear slipping from his hands. Serenya rushed to his side, holding him as if he might vanish. "You fool," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You stood when you should have fallen." Kaela knelt on his other side, her fierce eyes softened. "And yet, without you, we would not have one." Daniel looked at them both, his breath ragged, but his spirit unbroken. "We fought together. That is all that matters." Above them, the skies still glowed with the fires of war. The galaxy had burned, but from its ashes, something new had been born. A legend. Whispers would spread across the stars. Stories would be told of a human who was loved so fiercely that two alien warriors defied the galaxy itself. A human who stood, even when weak, and inspired empires to rise and fall. Serenya and Kaela knew the truth of it. This was no longer just a bond of survival, nor even just love. It was destiny written in blood and fire. The galaxy had burned for him, and in its flames, a new future waited.